Hello there. So this is CJ Miller. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana, across the Red River from beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana. I want to share a little bit about my acquisition today. So this was uh, June uh, 1938. Aha! And the very first Superman story ever printed. This is a what do you call it? It's a re-release. It's a re-release, but it's the original artwork and the original. It's a reprinting. It's a reprint. Um, it's great though. It's a legacy story, uh, and it's the origin. I haven't read it. I will, but let's see. Yeah, I guess we're getting into it talks a little bit about something, but this is the first Superman story, and it's interesting to see how they get right to it. Maybe introducing the backstory on the first or second page or something like that. So we actually, Action Comics became DC Comics. Uh, it, it 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 became Detective Comics really, and then DC Comics. Shortened from Detective Comics. Uh, yeah. So I don't know about the 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 becoming of all that, how Action became Detective Comics and DC Comics or whatever, but I do know that Superman was the first superhero to have these types of super strength, and you'll find out that early on that Superman was a very strong person. That was his asset. He didn't fly. He didn't have a lot of the attributes that he has now. It was basically that he was just happened to be stronger uh, than typical men. And what is this in black and white in the back? That's maybe it's an ad or something. I don't know. I think it's great because let me show you. They even to the back they give you this whole you know uh, what it would have looked like back then. You know, all the little gimmicks, the novelty items you could uh, order from these comic books and other types of magazines uh, for children, mostly read by young boys, but then also, of course, later on, girls too. So this is cool. This is an original work. This is kind of like if you sign up for the newsletter, we give you a little taste. So this was Marie Laveau. Now the guys who did it is the original work, and he's like from New Orleans or around there or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. For me, I would say I don't necessarily know that he is a native to New Orleans. He didn't quite have the New Orleans native. There's a very unique uh, dialogue, the dialect or whatever. And if I get around it, even though I'm not native to there, when I get around it, uh, my accent becomes a lot more uh, affected by what I hear. Then my style of speech becomes affected by what I'm hearing and what I'm around. You know what I mean? It's just it's kind of like when you it's kind of like you are what you eat. Well, and I'm also a bit of what I hear. So this is I guess. Uh, this is a Marie Laveau story. I haven't read it yet. The artwork's really pretty good though. The artwork's pretty good. I feel uh, it's a little bit gimmicky, but yeah, uh, whatever. I'll be around the convention a couple of more days, and I will encounter the guy again. But yeah, uh, What's this? John Holland. Hmm, I'll check him out. Uh, one thing about any sort of culture, any sort of local lure, like Marie Laveau or something like that, there are a lot of people in New Orleans who maybe are not necessarily native, but they'll reference a lot of the, especially in the South Louisiana, and a big voodoo thing. But it's really the voodoo is there, but it's also prevalent in uh, not just like the whole like Gulf and you know Caribbean area. Like when you get to like a Dominican Republic or Haiti or something. I mean, there's a lot of influence there as well. These mystic kind of stuff, and so yeah, there's a you know to just. But this is New Orleans. It's like this whole like legendary story of Marie Laveau, who by all accounts, did exist and did live, uh, and there are even landmarks there to serve as evidence of her existence. But there's a lot of people who will go there, and it's like, okay, they'll pick up on the lore, but they're not truly native, and they're not truly even tied in that much, and so some of the work is kind of like, well, we don't mind exploiting the lure or something like that. And I couldn't get a read on this guy. I couldn't figure out if he was one who was like sincerely enamored, uh, and was he giving kind of homage to some of the local legend and some of the local lore, and with sincerity, or was it just a little bit exploitive, or maybe even a little bit of both. Sometimes there's a certain amount of influence between different cultures that live. I've talked about this. Cultures that exist side by side by side, and some parts of the culture, maybe some of the tenets that would be maybe almost considered sacred. Uh, I don't know, kind of rub off on the other nearby cultures, and there's a certain uh, emulsifying or blending that happens, and that's going to happen more and more and more as integration happens. And it's hard to say, hey, it's hard to lambast uh, that blending and equate it with appropriation. Appropriation is about exploitation. It is about basically stealing a legacy that you have no ties to and trying to exploit it for monetization. So I'm hoping that's not the case here, but I didn't buy this one. This is just a little something that they every once in a while they'll do something that's a bonus or something like that. This isn't even like a full on story. It's a little teaser. Do you know what I mean? And kind of a showcase of the work, but that's great. But you know, anyway, because it was kind of he looked like a I don't know, that's a white guy doing uh, an artwork of Marie Laveau. It's not unheard of though. I mean, who was it? Um, God, I forget his name. It was like an Italian guy, like a or something like that. The one who did he penciled in, was it Todd McFarlane? McFarlane, that's who it was. I knew it would come to me. Uh, he created Spawn. Used to work at Marvel Comics and then broke away, stepped away, and created Spawn as an independent creation. and yeah, that was kind of neat. Um, yeah, I think it's really kind of bold and to be um, interested enough in exploring, you know, uh, the creative facets of characters of other cultures and of other races and everything. I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as it's not like uh, as long as it's not for appropriation and exploitation, and certainly, well, you never want it to be for the purpose of uh, what's the word? And I know it. I had it just a second ago. But it's late and I'm tired. You don't ever want to do um, exploitation and oppression. That's the word I'm looking for. You never want to do something that is uh, oppressing of a people or a culture or something like that. And so uh, my verdict's still out on this. I like the way the drawings look. I'll have to read it to find out if it's a worthy venture or if I feel like it's uh, uh, you know done in poor taste or for the purpose of my hunch is that it's probably not meant to be insulting, and it's probably meant to be a wonderful homage to this legend that was Marie Laveau, uh, and then what's grown out of it and everything. But when you come right down to it, uh, voodoo actually it's a real religion that really is practiced, but it's not like it's got there's very little tie to Marie Laveau, to voodoo, outside of the immediate New Orleans area. Like if you go down to like, or you talk to people, I haven't been down there, but if you go to some of the Caribbean islands and the voodoo that takes place and everything, it's like no, it's uh, that's not quite. Uh, that's not quite what happens. It's she's not quite revered all over. So she's kind of become the New Orleans tall tale. Like she's like Pecos Bill. She's like Paul Bunyan. She's like well, there's a little bit of truth, a real person, and then so much lore has grown around that. There's a John Henry, you know, meant to make the hero out of a person, working so hard he can outwork a machine, even if it kills him. you know, uh, uh, driving spikes into the railroad to lay more tracks, and I think he beat the machine, but then he died. Casey at the bat, these kind of tall tale things. Like I think that's kind of what we get with Marie Laveau. You know, except there is a very, very strong protective thing that people get when when their heart is closely tied to New Orleans. Now, I'm not from New Orleans, but I spent so much time down there that, and I felt that it protected me, the city. So, in a certain way, actually, it did until it didn't. It protected me until it nearly killed me, put it that way. But aside from that, uh, uh, it's a deep rooted connection with what goes on down there. I feel very strongly about it, and so I'll go down there one of these days, and I'll do a little walking tour. Uh, I did that once when I was on Facebook. Well, I moved down there and then I walked around, took a little tour, and pointed out different landmarks that landmarked my history with New Orleans, especially around the French Quarter, but not. That was on Facebook, and I don't have that Facebook channel. I haven't had it in probably a couple of years now, getting close to it. So anyway, yeah. Oh, I got so sidetracked. Yeah, but so what I was going to say is that I sort of feel a little bit protective of some of the stories and legends that come out of the region, and I want them to be, kind of true to as true as possible to the local lore. Uh, and yeah, I don't know. But also, that's the great thing about Diebold comics. Uh, I met a guy, uh, and he had a partner. He was doing a publication. He did his works, and then like he had a collection of he had his novels, and then he had like a short story collection, and he had like one or two people. Uh, One of the guys who wrote a short story for his short story collection. I have to say I was pretty intrigued, and had I had a little bit more money, I probably would have snapped it up. But what I want to do is I want to check out this convention and browse and not make any major purchases uh, until I've seen everything, and then I can like kind of decide, and then kind of go back on that last day and make the purchases that I want to make or whatever. So that keeps me from just being uh, buying so much, and then if I see something that I want to buy, really, really want to buy, but then I've already go blown through my budget, then it's like, oh my god, now I don't have the money to buy this what I really want because I bought these few things, but then I can't take these few things back because all purchases are final. So I learned to window shop before I spend the money. Uh, but God, never mind that. These are it's fun. This is a really fun convention to go to GeekCon in Shreveport. We would see. I think it was like the show. What was the Big Bang Theory? That was a Comic Con was a big thing for those guys, and of course that show kind of made it really cool to be like. Uh, super geeky, super nerdy, or something like that, in a sitcom kind of level. It's like it was like the little show that could, because it's like it maybe probably wasn't gonna do so well, but then it really sort of did, and it was like, oh my god, these are funny. And yeah, the episodes, the shows. But they would go to the comic book store, and they'd go to Comic Con. They'd dress up, and it was like, yeah, they made doing all that weird shit like fun, you know. And I've always done that. When I was a teenager, of course, I used to have like I'd get like a Fangoria magazine and Gorzone magazine and stuff like that, and take that to centerfolds and put them on my walls and everything like that. My mother didn't like it. Uh, oh, deep stories that uh, the scars uh, that stick with us are the ones that made us. So you learn to love them. Uh, yeah, Mom and I had much uh, headbutting over my choice in wall decor, especially I loved horror movies and stuff like that. And I had since I was like a little kid, as like I'd be writing and stuff like that. But at one point, it was like, oh my god, it just. Anyway, uh, I will spare you the details because this is me talking about Comic Con. This is not me doing uh, psychological therapy. Fuck you very much. Okay, so I love you guys. I'm fixing to go turn in and go to bed. It's about 1 in the morning. I still have to wake up and go do some Comic Con tomorrow. GeekCon. It's called GeekCon. It's really Comic Con, but there's so much more than just comics. There's you will find it really fun. Uh, and if you do anything like this, you should do something that's uh, you gotta you know lighten up. You gotta find recreation. Gotta find enjoyment. I try to find some kind of enjoyment in every day, and I try not to let concerns, fears, worry however justified or unjustified. But a lot of times I feel that those things are justified. That's okay. I still try not to let them, those things, those events that bring on those emotions, I try not to let them rob me of my daily enjoyment of life. If that makes any sense, uh, I hope it does. And love you. Uh, love and light. Goodbye. Good night.